You're listening to the Phatcast, live from the studio with Colin Reynolds. Good afternoon. This is Colin Reynolds, your host, and you're listening to or watching the Phatcast. Today I have a very special guest with me, CC Thornley.
Thank you very much. Yeah. You know I'm famous because it rhymes.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? It's been kind of a big year for you.
Yeah, it has actually been a seismic shift in year. Yeah, it has. We've come out of COVID. We went into COVID with one of the busiest bands in Hobart. We'd been gigging for 3 years, absolutely, literally non-stop every single weekend.
This is, of course, Black Swans of Trespass.
That's right, yeah. And that one, and we had various other side projects as well that filled the calendar a lot. Then COVID happened, and we just went, let's have a rest. So we had a rest, and then various other things happened, and I got offered a job outside of music. Well, not really outside of music, but a full-time job. So my whole paradigm is going to shift very soon from running the small business model that you do as someone who runs bands, or any musician is basically a small business entrepreneur.
Yep.
From moving from that model to basically being a public servant. It's going to be interesting, and I certainly don't have so much of the desire to keep on doing what I was doing with the ambition and drive I was doing it with.
It's hard to keep momentum when, you get something trips you up like COVID, obviously.
Oh, yeah. And I'd been doing it for more than 20 years, and so it was like, you keep banging your head against that brick wall. It was, and, it felt like every gig you do, it feels like you're proving yourself, and then you have to do another gig. I have to prove myself again? Like, how many times do I have to do this,
Punters, individually, are brilliant. But as a homogenous entity,
there's a line in a movie.
They just have such a short memery, and I mean, this is symptomatic of the world we live in now. We have such a short news cycle.
Yeah,
I mean, like today, Harambe gets shot, and then tomorrow Trump's president.
Yeah,
and then the next day, he's grabbing women in the nether regions, and like from one story to the next.
Well, Trump was a roller coaster ride, man.
Wasn't it? They
were right. You got to the point where you just got so desensitized, and now here we are. And it's funny, we're doing these, this little bit with the masks, comedy gold, folks. I think the conservative right's got a lot to answer for.
Absolutely,
but they never will. Because we're right, and you're the lefties.
They never will.
No,
they never
crazy.
will. And look, no. The thing is, if it actually gets to a point where what you could call the dominant social consciousness, when that sort of reaches a point that such a conservative position becomes completely unrecoverable, they evaporate. They were never conservatives like that. They were always moderates.
Well, what surprises me about Scott Morrison when he gets up and lies, you just want to say, Scott, do you know how video works? Do you know how it works? Because we've got you on film.
We see, in part, we have Trump to thank for this.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he became famous by calling up magazines and saying, "I just saw Donald Trump with some hot girl." Or,
You know, that's very. It's funny you should mention that because I had a very similar tactic when I was living in Melbourne. So one of the things I miss about Hobart is the street poster culture. We don't have, and we've also got a zero tolerance policy on graffiti and street postering. Whereas coming from Melbourne, when I came here, where was it? Maybe six odd years ago. The street culture, the poster culture was vibrant, and I used to go out and make up huge posters. That some of them are still up there to this day.
These were the gigs that never happened posters.
And I used to make up posters for gigs that never happened.
Yeah.
And people never would go to these gigs, and we knew they wouldn't go to these gigs. But people started thinking, "Hey, these guys have got these gigs. They must be something. They must be." It was the most successful thing I've ever done as a musician. Is not gig.
Yeah.
But that's it's that that Tommy Lee Jones line in Men in Black. A person is smart. People are stupid.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, it's funny how that works. That mentality and the. But the whole landscape's changed. Like I'm Gen X.
Yep.
So
I'm Gen X too.
Yeah. Right. Gen X too. Yeah.
In a way, yes. Oh, there's obviously. Let's get this caveat out of the way. It's all arbitrary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once we're past that, if we accept, okay, you've roughly got Gen X here, and then you've roughly got Millennials there.
Indeed.
Okay, so I'm kind of squished in the middle.
Well, I grew up. I came in and started playing live music right at the end of the Dogs in Space era.
Sure.
Which was that Michael Hutchence film,
Yep.
and to us that was a guiding light for us. And we gigged for a few years at the end of the 90s into the 2000s, and everything changed.
Well, after that movie,
yeah.
what was it? Paula. What's
the actress? I can't remember her name.
No, his partner.
Yeah.
What was her name?
I can't remember.
Right, but after that movie, she was magazine covers for 2 years.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Why can I not remember her name?
I don't know, but I thought she died in the movie. She died of a heroin overdose in the movie.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, kids go out and see Dogs in Space. Your old grandfather here, granddad Gen X is telling you if you get the life experience.
Or as we like to call it, Requiem for a Dream of Gen X.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. So I've seen that happen where we had to do it from the grassroots level, and we were literally photocopying our band posters and zines were huge and that sort of thing. And then the internet happened, and MySpace happened, and then Facebook took over. And when Facebook took over, it was a
You remember the microzines? Where you go to the A3 print, but you could get the single piece of paper and fold it like 4 times before you ran into serious trouble.
Right, yeah.
So you do the fold, double staple, cut round the edge, and there's like your 8-page zine.
Yeah, your little, Communist Manifesto. I love those were the days. But now we've got the internet. It's not like that activity isn't happening, but it's just changed into meme culture, I suppose.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
That sort of stuff. But Facebook was the thing that killed us because we can't. We're at this point now at late stage Facebook where we cannot use anything but Facebook. But we can't use Facebook because we'll put up a poster and it just won't get distributed. They won't unless we pay for it. And I've made
you kind of need to have like a cadre of compadres. Let's form a group, right?
All right.
Where you each share each's.
Yeah.
Like you kind of look. If you get like 5 independent shares, people are going to see it.
Right.
And when I say people, I mean friends of all the people connected to it. I mean, we're lucky enough in Tasmania. That includes everybody, basically.
Yeah.
Friends of friends. That's everyone in Tasmania.
That would work if I wasn't such a misanthropist. Because, don't friend me up on Facebook. God, I hate that. I get a friend request. I'm going,
oh, sure.
Because I'm Gen X. My hormones are running out. I'm turning into a grumpy old man rapidly.
Turning?
Yeah, no, it's true. But yeah, you're right. No, absolutely right. And I think that's one thing that, that support network. And that was the thing when I moved to Hobart.
Yep.
That was the thing that blew me away. Was the support network was so strong.
context, where you moved from, just from Melbourne?
From Melbourne.
Yeah.
Well, I was brought up on the Surfcoast, and we would raid Melbourne and lived there, or more or less there on 10 years. Was homeless for half of that. When I say homeless, I mean I wasn't at whatever it is. What do they call it? Those Odyssey House, and I wasn't shooting up. I was living in the back of my car and couch surfing. I was very resourceful, and I actually figured out that if I just stayed on the road, I don't have to pay rent.
Right.
So I would just circle
continually
around
tour.
Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia, Northern Territory, just continually tour.
Yep.
Anyway, that went on for a while, and it got very tiring. And my girlfriend at the time, I got an offer to go to the States and do some gigs with some friends.
Yep.
So I took it, and I went over there and spent 3 months there. Did San Francisco, New Orleans, all that sort of stuff, and that was a magic experience. But when I came back, I said to my girlfriend, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give up music. I'm going to move to Torquay where I grew up. We're going to get a house because I need to be physically fit. I need to surf again.
Yep.
I need to get back to that sort of stuff. I'll get a job at the tip sorting bottles. I don't give a stuff. I'm just not going to play music anymore. So we did that, and within about 3 or 4 months, I got a full-time job in music.
Of course.
And so that was like the universe saying, no. We gave you this music bug for a reason, and you're not going to chuck it away that easily,
Sure.
So we did that, and then at the end of 5 years working I was working in a guitar shop, which is where I developed that extreme hatred for guitarists. No, it's not that.
You know how many guitarists it takes to change a light bulb?
Go. Yeah, maybe.
Look, an arbitrary number to N. A guitarist is a capable person. It only takes one of them to change the bulb. But an infinite number of them to stand back and say, I could have done it better than that.
Yeah. And those are the guys that would come into our shop.
Yeah.
So we did that. And then I got the scholarship to come down here because I always wanted to finish off my bachelor. But we don't really value music and musicians in this country. So
definitely not in a monetary sense.
Well, see, here's the thing. See, you and I, we live in a bubble.
Right.
Everyone we know is musicians.
Yep.
We see the art, we value the art, but that bubble is not as big as we think.
No. Outside that bubble, you've got people who only listen to music if, they're at work and the radio's playing.
Yeah.
Or there's an ad break between the footy quarters.
Yeah.
And they'll catch some music then.
Yeah, exactly, like Meatloaf or something.
Right. Look about the hell, you can drink this solo.
Do you remember when he did the grand final and
I'm not sure I saw
he was off his head or something and he blew it, and they'd spent millions of dollars getting this huge international act when we had several high caliber acts that would have done the job for half the price and twice as good.
Yeah.
That's Australia. Anyway,
there's like a whole genre of like musician fails at sporting games, and the greatest ones are always the anthem ones where. And for example, the American anthem in particular. So where that song came from, it was called the Anacreontic song, and it was really designed for someone with quite a baritone, but of a great range, to like really show off their skills.
This is Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah, it's Star Spangled because of the ambitus, the distance between your lowest note and your highest note. Right, and because of this enormous ambitus, it's really designed for the average person to fail at.
Yeah, right. See, they should do that with more songs.
Oh,
they should make them so the average person fails at them.
Right.
That'd bring it back home to us.
And there's there's this whole string of like Demi Lovato and
yes.
Right. This is tip of the iceberg. There is a lot of failed American national anthems.
Yeah.
I mean, the Brits got it right. The ambitus is only a sixth.
What year were you born?
God Save the Queen.
What year were you born?
79.
So do you remember 1988?
Of course.
Yeah.
Let's make it great in 88.
Yeah. But the preponderance of brass bands doing Australian Waltzing Matilda and Advanced Australia Fair, that's burned into my memory now. That was a formative part of my existence. Yeah.
This was still part of Hawkey's tenure, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And you know what? I actually remember a couple of very nationalistic ad songs that were used. So there was the one I just sang, and then there was that pass it on. Remember that one?
Yes.
Come on, give us a hand. And it was, that was about trying to convince people to spend money.
Right.
Because it's a sales-based economy.
Yeah.
When people are shopping at their local businesses, the businesses do better, and then everyone does better.
Yeah.
Of course, you can only do that when you've got $1 in your pocket to go to the shop.
Kind of like a working man's version of the trickle-down effect, where the rich just piss on you.
Right. When in reality, money is trickle up.
Yeah.
If trickle down worked,
trickle up,
there wouldn't be poor people anymore.
It's bloody Hoover up. Come on.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh dear, so, when you get old, kids, don't get old. It's no fun getting old. But what were we talking about?
What were we talking about? All sorts of things.
Yeah.
So this outburst of nationalistic
and
songs
bombastic,
used
bloviated is the word. Bloviated.
Yes.
And it just is so hollow, and it's not. We don't do what the Americans do. We
or like they get there and literally every day at school pledge allegiance.
we had to do that. Yeah, we had to do. We
had to sing the national anthem once a week.
Yeah, Mondays. We had to get up for
Right.
the assembly, and we had to do Monday, and we had to pledge our allegiance to the Queen. And by about grade 6, this is how well it was for me. I started waking up, going, "Hang on, who's this? What am I doing? What is this? Is this legally binding? Like, on my honour, I promise to blah 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 and honour the Queen." And I can't even remember it now, but. And then I remember one day just going, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I got in huge trouble. But it was more sort of like the trouble I got into was like the trouble you get into North Korea, except without the organs being moved.
Right.
It was we need to re-educate you, young.
Send you off to room 101.
Yeah. And watch these videos with your eyes pinned like, and the Queen and saving us and all this sort of stuff. And Ned Kelly shaking hands with a koala and all this business and anyway,
crazy stuff.
Yeah, those were the days. We'll never see those days again. Thank
You know what?
God.
Frankly, I don't miss them.
No.
I mean, a lot of people are rather nostalgic about the past,
well,
but
yeah.
frankly, I think that a huge part of that is they just remember being not in pain all the time because they were young.
Right.
Dead
set. And fit. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're dead right.
Good looking.
The 70s and the 80s and even the early 90s, that was a horrific place to be anything other than homogenous.
Right, absolutely.
And I remember if you go back and watch those, the failure of Hey Hey It's Saturday, when it came back was because
certainly.
It came back the same old racist boomer. Can I say boomer on the podcast?
Absolutely, you can. It came back in a post 9/11 world.
Yeah, and they were still like making fun of it. And Harry Connick Jr. had to get up and say, "Listen, man, blackface is not on." And Dale was like, "What's blackface? I don't know what blackface."
I remember that was one of the Red Faces acts.
Yeah,
it was like half a dozen guys. Yeah, blackface.
But in the day, in the 80s, that was high culture. That was cutting edge. That was the. And because you had TV was the great hegemonist, everybody shared that common experience.
That's right, because we had very few media channels. We had newspapers, which once again were owned by 3 or 4 people.
And now,
that hasn't changed much. That, but then TV, which was owned by the same 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
And that was really all we had access to. Yeah. Like we had SBS, which was global. Different owner. Yeah. Then
because I think I spent my first when YouTube started picking up. I think I spent a good solid 5 years just going in and seeing all the things I couldn't access, like the bootlegs of Star Wars, the Muppets, and all this sort of stuff that was shown on TV that you love, but you couldn't see anything else. Like I never saw an entire season of Star Trek in continuity.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we just finished TNG with Patrick Stewart.
Okay, wow.
Because it was on Netflix. And
the best captain.
He was actually.
The best captain.
He was.
It's really, for me, it's really tough between him and Janeway because I thought Janeway was fantastic.
Yeah, so we haven't got to Janeway yet. But what's going to happen is they're pulling all the Paramount stuff off Netflix so that you have to get Paramount. And I've got to tell you, Paramount, that's not going to happen.
But like when you compare, and as a TV series in general, when you compare it to the original, and like let me say straight up, I'm not like a Star Trek guy,
right?
Or even a Star Wars guy, But I've seen enough of them, to kind of get a feel for how they. And the original series of Star Trek, was very much. It was comical in nature, in the sense of a comic book.
It was the same as TNG was that as well.
Sure, but not to the same extent.
Well, I disagree. I think because I've had the benefit of having to watch them very close to each other. I didn't have to wait 30 years.
True.
And they're very different creatures. And when STD came out, Star Trek Discovery.
Yes.
My girlfriend and I, we watched
Well,
that.
that's a few later.
Well, that's now. That's this one.
Yes, that's the
out-
newest one, isn't it?
That's brilliant. And
Right.
all the fanboys are going, oh, bro. I'm like, no.
Well,
It's
what are they
really-
nostalgic for? Captain Kirk getting drunk, kissing a green lady,
Yeah.
punching an alien.
Or yeah,
Like-
or are they? Because it defeats themselves, because they're usually their biggest complaint is like a woman is a main character and she's not Anglo. That's usually their biggest complaint.
Well, what about Voyager?
Well, look at
Janeway.
TNG. In TNG, right, you had the command structure was captain, first command, and a counselor, not the head of artillery.
Yes.
Not this. It was a counselor.
Yes.
and that's that was an extraordinary.
Who
type,
is
yeah.
not accidentally stunning, gorgeous woman.
Well, they don't put them on telly if they're ugly.
Right.
You know.
Well, no. Well, this is true.
Well,
This
they
is
didn't
true
back in
too.
the day.
Oh, you know what? Something needs to be said about older movies, though. Movies, not so much TV. If you have a look at the science fiction movies
Yeah.
of say the late 60s and early 70s, some of my favourites.
Yeah.
These are very ordinary looking people.
Yeah. Well, we'll give you like you're talking.
An example: 1971, the Andromeda Strain.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So you've got like a crew of scientists.
Yeah.
One of them's a woman, and three are men. I mean, I guess
right.
you've reached your quota of.
But they didn't even have quotas back then.
No, who knows? But like, you can't just have all men, surely. But this movie,
Yeah.
the woman was not somebody's love interest.
Yeah. Right.
She was a scientist there to crack the puzzle.
This is what. Look, I'm not a Star Trek guy. I'm a sci-fi guy. I love sci-fi.
I am a sci-fi guy.
And I love sci-fi because the inherent plot principle in the thing that defines it as a genre is that every sci-fi piece, whether it's a book or anything, it's about morality.
Oh, sure.
The question is, if we keep doing this, what happens?
Yep.
That's the essential question in you can boil down all sci-fi, no matter what it is, to that,
Yep.
And that's why I love it so much,
I mean, you like June, right?
I borrowed that when I was a young lad. I borrowed that from the video store, from Video Rental.
Oh, the movie.
I got 10 minutes into it. My mum said, "You're not watching this. I'm turning it off."
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
No, because I was into it. I was like, "Yeah, this is amazing."
David Lynch's 1984 June
Yeah,
movie.
that was the one.
And I still have some love for that movie.
Yeah,
Like
right.
it's campy
Yeah.
and now David Lynch normally makes a fantastic movie,
Right.
but he kind of did one of the cardinal no-nos.
Yeah.
And what that is see what makes June great, the story.
Yeah.
It's not so much about what happens or even how the characters relate to each other, which is fantastic,
Yeah.
but it's how the characters relate to themselves when they're experiencing all of the other interactions.
Right.
So you've got all this dense internal monologue and this study of minutiae of body language and
Yeah.
psychology and even philosophy.
Yeah.
He was more of a philosopher than a poet.
Right.
In any case,
This is
this is the books. June
Oh,
books,
Herbert.
right? The sin of the movie
Okay.
is to take this inner monologue and make it verbal narration over. So you'll just have a person's face there,
Yeah.
and they're looking around, and there's their verbal dialogue going over the top, and that just does not make for good cinema.
Right. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it now because all I remember was the blood coming out of the guy.
This is a new movie now.
And that was it was so yeah.
Have you seen that one?
Not at all.
Oh,
no.
watch it.
We'll
watch
get
it.
there. We'll get there. There's a
Fantastic.
lot on my plate.
But read the books.
Yeah. There's a lot on my plate at the moment for all that kind of stuff, but we'll get round to it.
Yep.
We'll get round to it.
Yep.
And I'll certainly be I've had just recently I've had a little bit of an issue with my eyes, and I haven't been reading a lot because it's very hard for me to look at things close up. I can see things far away brilliantly, but looking up, so not sure how that's going to play out, but we'll see how it goes.
Now this doesn't help that at all, but
Yeah.
audiobooks, man.
Audio
Get
books.
into it.
Yeah,
Get
cool.
into it.
Oh, I do.
I
yeah,
I just recently listened to a 3-part sci-fi series by a Chinese author called Cixin Liu.
Okay.
Now the name of the series is In Remembrance of Earth's Past, but the first book is called The Three-Body Problem. Now this will be a movie in the next couple of years.
Okay.
Yep.
So get in early.
Won a Hugo Award.
Right.
This is worth reading. This series.
Okay.
And
Cixin Liu, is she a mainland China or is she expat? Do you know?
He is mainland China, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and the movie's being made in China by the Chinese. big budget production. Oh, I'm really looking forward to the movie. But the books are fantastic.
I can't watch any Chinese movie without seeing the CCP now. I can't watch anything Chinese without going, hang on, you're propagandizing to me. The same, and I've got to say, to be honest, to be fair,
no need for production. The book's got plenty of propaganda.
I have the same issue with Hollywood as well.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's like, give me the dirt, give me the subversive stuff. I think, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped engaging with movies a long time ago. Because you walk into a movie in the first 5 minutes, you go, oh, I know how this is going to end.
Oh, sure.
This is terrible.
You know what?
Very few movies twist that round for me.
This series, that's not going to happen.
Oh, good.
So for starters, we're talking about an author with a background completely different than 99% of the stuff you've seen.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's got a different cultural infusion, and there may be some formulas in there, but they're ones alien to us.
Well, so here's the thing: like, if what was I going to say? Oh, blanked.
Oh, okay. So you've got this cultural difference.
Yeah.
Okay, and then along with that goes an entirely different frame of reference for everything.
Yeah.
So even if the book is filled with cliches, they're ones we wouldn't recognise.
Yeah. Right. Oh, here's what I was going to say. If if science fiction is about morality, and she's in China, she's mainland Chinese under the CCP.
I think it's a he.
Sorry, I keep saying she. I don't know why. Yeah, probably is a he. Then how can he have any moral exploration that is in any way penetrative?
You know what? I would look like a massive douche right now if it's a woman.
No.
There's no reason it couldn't be.
I'm
just realising, hang on, do I know that it's a bloke or have I just assumed that?
Well, here's the thing. The correct English is the correct traditional English usage is if you don't know the gender, you defer to the masculine.
That's the patriarchal influence for you, right?
But we're not. Well, I think we're shifting that now.
From now on, until I know, it's going to be he or she.
Well, why don't we go for them or they?
Them or they.
There we go. Everyone's happy then,
right?
They
wrote a fantastic trilogy.
Well, I'm going to put that on my wish list and have a look. Yeah, thank you. Look, but that's fascinating. Should we talk about music?
Yeah, we should. So the banjo piece you played for
at the start,
What was that called?
That's called Doing Stuff, and that was a piece I wrote that won the Folk Federation songwriting contest a few years back. And I thought it's an original piece. I feel kind of mixed emotions about it because people seem to like it. They did very well, but
absolutely.
But for me, it was a technical exploration.
Sure.
So it was just basically a technical scale run with a Mixolydian sort of chord in there, and then we go to the 4 and I do some stuff, but then it has those diminished chords and that sort of stuff.
When someone thinks of banjo playing, they're going to think of recorded stuff they've heard, and typically we hear country, we hear folk. Don't so often hear classical.
No. Well, I wouldn't. I'd say if.
I'm not calling the piece out now classical.
I do play a bit of classical.
Yes.
But that would be sort of the ambition of that piece, and not so much what it is, but was to be in that sort of vein of neoclassical Bela Fleck style of.
Sure.
And I'm using those Bill Keith kind of scales and melodic sort of referencing.
But it had those classical inflections there, especially with the diminished chords.
Yeah. Well, I like to twist. I started playing banjo and got into bluegrass as you do, and I studied all my bluegrass technique down and got that down, and then I got very bored and I got very restricted by.
You'll only see diminished chord once every 12 bars.
Yeah. Well,
after the 5/7, you drop off the tonic right at the end. Hammer that tritone.
Yeah. So I really like taking it other places and going play. And that's the thing. Like when I sit down with the banjo and I just listen to the banjo and I respond to what it's saying to me. It wants to do crazy stuff. It wants to go. It doesn't want to do the hillbilly stuff and that sort of stuff. And so that's kind of what I really like. I've been doing a lot of writing on my own now. I sort of hit the wall this year and thought I've always been under the misinterpretation or the misguided idea that you have to market yourself. You have to put your music out there. And I learned all the songs that people need to learn in all these different genres to present them to the public and get paid and get all that sort of stuff. And in the end, I realised the public suck and they don't deserve music. And and now that music is turning back in on me and I'm playing music for myself. So for me, it's like, well...
I feel like, just to interrupt you for a second, I feel that there's... it's not that what you said is entirely wrong. I certainly don't think that. But what I will say is this. Focus on doing a thing. And if the reason for that thing is for yourself, brilliant.
Yeah.
Any reason's good enough.
Yeah.
Some guys like to sing about a woman they lost.
Yeah.
You know, some guys like to sing about the impending collapse of society.
Yeah.
But if you're doing a thing, whatever it is you're doing, out there is an audience for that thing.
Yeah. Look, and you would think that in this age, there's a great line, I think it's Mike Scott from the Waterboys or someone like that, but in this age of communication, everybody ends up talking at the same time.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so no one's listening, you know, and that gives me an enormous release, enormous freedom. So I can just write for myself and I will sit down and go, you know, I've been doing a little bit of Bach. I wonder, and analysing those chord progressions, I wonder if I could write something that uses those things. And I'm in the middle of writing an album at the moment. And this album, the biggest problem that I've had with every single recording I've ever done is I've got this much money and I've got this much time. And it has to be done. And we say that, you know, you should play music for yourself, right? And that's true. But there is a trade aspect to it. Whereas,
oh no, certainly,
and that's the trap that I fell into.
It's not just an art; it's also a craft.
It became a job for me.
Oh, sure.
You know, and so that's a good thing because I've got all these instinctive skills in my background to market and that. At the same time, I've also got this immense hatred for doing that. You know, this is self-hatred for doing that, right? So, and I think when you go and see the Black Swans of Trespass and you see the character that I put on for that band. You know, you're seeing that, like, okay, folks, here I am. I'm your musician today. All right.
Look, a little bit. Look, I blame a little bit of that on your vintage. Okay?
Oh, really? Back to the Gen X business?
Back to the Gen X business.
Okay.
You see, the world that we grew up in. Okay, so when a band got mega, it was because they had some kind of break.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not just about getting a hit song because bands had hit songs and disappeared as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's about when a record, ultimately you come down to one person in the right spot who believes in you.
Yeah.
Really. But if the right producer or the right executive bloody financier of a record company is like, let's fund, okay, here's a contract. You're going to do your next 5 albums for us. We're going to pay you this, blah, 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 and you'll be a megastar. And this was part of how music got big.
Well, look,
it's not like that now.
Have you heard Frank Zappa's take on that?
Please share it.
He said that in the early days, you had the people who were running the record companies, they were old guys that didn't know anything about music.
Sure.
So they'd hear something come and said, sure, let's give it a go. Let's throw some money at it. Yeah, boom.
Yep.
And you had all this proliferation during his period of this great avant-garde stuff, and some of it is absolutely legendary.
Sure.
But then after that period, once the record companies became, the next generation came in and they became the behemoths they are, then it was like, hey, I'm a music professional. I know all about music. I know the sound. You haven't got the sound.
Right.
You know, and so then...
So we are talking about boomers right now.
Well, I wasn't going to say that. But we're not now. And this is the thing about you Gen Xers out there. My God, you piss me off. You've betrayed us all. You betrayed us all. You sold out all the wonderful punk we had for this corporate stuff. My God.
Well, see, the thing is, so this is all about simulacra. This is approximating images. So for punk, we can name 20 bands all for a very similar sound. But there's thousands of punk bands who all sound really different and are all really awesome. But because Sex Pistols made it big, so they're like, oh, Clash, let's wrap them up and send you along, you know?
Yeah. And your band bios.
You know, and Big Black.
When you do your band bio for a band, what do you have to do? Sounds like.
Yes.
You know, it's an eclectic mix of.
Right. 20% different was the rule. You've got to be 20% different to make it big.
So these days, when I write a band, when they ask me for a band bio or a blurb, I just say, you know who we are. That's it. That's my band bio. Come or do not. And that's it. Because I'm so tired of this charade we do. And the thing is, what I've learned is that, particularly with the Black Swans, is that we have proved ourselves in numerous capacities. We're an extremely versatile band, and the band wouldn't be the band it is without Paul Sharp, who we know.
Oh, of course.
And Emily Wolfe.
Yep.
And we've had a few drummers, and we've got a guy, Jack Lester, at the moment, who's the freshest
Top
Slavic
guy,
man. Yeah. He has blown me away, and he really
So young, too.
And so on it. But the thing about Sharpie is that he's such a hard worker, and he's so dedicated, and he's such a professional.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
It wouldn't matter the genre.
And the thing that...
You'd say, here, play some Tibetan fusion. And he'd be straight into it.
I'm very heavily into Jamaican music and mento and reggae and stuff. Sharpie's from a metal background and never played that. And so when I said, hey, we're going to do this, he's like, oh, I'm not
this is the background I made him.
But he never says no. And that means that you will succeed. Because even if he doesn't...
I should ask him to shout more often. Which is not to suggest he wouldn't. Just, take advantage.
No, he's a lovely guy. And Emily Wolfe, and also there were such veteran, in the trenches troopers that it made the band be very successful. So we've proved ourselves in rock. We've ripped the roof off the Republic on a Saturday night. We've done small rooms and all that sort of stuff. I don't know where I was going with that. I was just telling you how good my band was.
It is a very good band. It's funny, instinctively you knew that the next step in this million-step journey was need some better photos.
Oh, yeah. Well, because, that's... So you just did some photos for us.
Yes, yes, I did.
And that was for another band. And so what's happened with that band was the Mentalists. So I love Jamaican music, and I always wanted to play that kind of music. And I studied mento, which is Jamaican banjo styles and all this sort of stuff. And I want to play that Jackie Mittoo, Ernest Ranglin, Don Drummond stuff, that repertoire. And it's really helped me reading, because I'll listen to it and I'll try and transcribe the bass. So it's really helped me in that sense. And then the next thing was to convince people to play that music. And the next thing was to convince people to play it with a banjo. And I thought, this is going to be a couple of gig band. This is just going to be
the banjo has a very interesting role in that band.
It does, yeah. But the band took off. And the band became much more successful than I expected. And that's why I had to approach you for some photos, because we've got all these gigs coming up.
Yep.
And they're all going, do you have biopics? And it's just me sitting in a toilet or something really bad, And I thought, no, I need something that looks... I need the instinct. I know what they want.
Well, you see, this is all part of coming back to an earlier point. So, originally with the big bands, the big music, the big record labels, there was this one channel for bands to get huge. Now we have the internet, and the problem now is, rather than lacking a vehicle, it's that everyone has this vehicle.
Yeah.
And the issue is signal to noise ratio.
Yes.
Okay, so it's sorting out the stuff that you really like from everything else that you're not so interested in, if you're after, a particular sound. Right. So somebody goes, whether they go through a music playing service, a web service, or they he should be not known Facebook, right? Without some kind of great looking image.
Yeah.
Someone's scrolling past to look for something, unless they're
because everything's multimedia.
It's
got to have the visuals in there.
You have to be able to find the stuff you're after. So for starters, you need to be able to see the banjo in that picture straight away.
Yes and no, and I know that's what the producer would tell me, and what I would say to the producer would be, don't show them anything. In fact, what I would say to the producer is that I am deliberately and strategically going to put a barrier between the public and my music. So that way, whoever gets over that barrier, I know they're a proper customer.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? And so that's one of the things with the Mentalists.
I say bring them all on. Sort that out later. Everyone come and listen.
Well, see, that's the Melbourne hipster in me. It's like as soon as 3 people walk into my club, it's like, oh, this is too mainstream now. But no, so the banjo itself... I
bet you had the beard before it was cool.
Oh, the beard is actually... I'll tell you the story about the beard.
Please do.
So I've always shaved. No one in my family's been beardy. We've always hated beards, So I've always shaving. This stuff would grow out of my face like a garden, and I was shaving it and throwing it in the bin. I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if I could do something with that growth and make something positive with my face? So I grew my beard for a year, and I said, okay, if you think I should have a beard, and I'll grow a beard for a year, and at the end of that year, I'll get everyone to vote, and if people say the beard should stay or not, we'll count the votes, and every vote will cost $1. So just like in Australian democracy.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, you can buy as many votes as you want, right? So we did that for 12 months, and then I had I had it probably down to there, and
Captainly length.
Captainly, yeah. And then we had the gig and at a big tally votes and stuff, and we made about I think it was somewhere between $1,500-$1,600 for Brightside Animal Sanctuary. But the upshot was that everybody loved the beard. Now, my family hated the beard, and they put in an awful amount of money to get it off, and they were sorely disappointed when I had to turn around and say, I'm honor bound to sit here at this Christmas dinner and inform you that the gravy's going to dribble down my beard. That's how it is. They weren't happy. But they knew that, I think, it was for a good cause, a very good cause. And so now I've got this beard that I'm honor bound to keep, and so... That's the story of the beard.
Well, you're ready for a heavy metal album.
But since I've grown a beard, now I know what it's like having a beard. The psychology of the beard.
It changes things.
It does. It changes people's reaction to you. It does.
Straight away, as soon as you say something, it sounds wiser.
It does. But as I've noticed culturally too, like a lot of Chinese people I know, I've got some wonderful, really close Chinese friends, and I'll be walking down the street and I'll go around the corner and there'll be a group of Chinese tourists there, and they'll look up and go, "Wah!"
And of course, because
and they know, and I've always been
beard,
very,
this is the image of their god of war,
right?
Ancestral hero Guanyu.
Guanyu.
And
is that what it is?
I love this character. So he's known for a couple of things.
Right.
First thing he's known for is a long, luxurious beard.
Right.
Second thing he's known for, he has a halberd. That probably only he can lift.
Right.
Okay.
Now
the third thing he's known for is his oath of brotherhood. So him and his two brothers, not by blood.
Yeah.
They met in a garden one day and they swore, "We shall live together. We shall die together."
Right.
And these are the things that define the character of Guanyu.
Right, so you reckon it's because they think I'm Guanyu? I thought it was because they thought I was a Yeren. big Chinese Bigfoot, for those who don't know what the Yeren is. I thought it was because I was like some wild tribal.
Hey, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So there are worse personages to be associated with.
Yeah, no, I quite like that. I'm going to run with that. But that's the story of the beard. That's why I've got a beard. So if you want to get rid of the beard, I think I'm going to set the price at $2,000. You can fundraise whatever you want, but you give me that $2,000, I'll get rid of the beard, give that money to the puppies at Brightside. That's how it works, folks. That's what the beard's about. There, it's not about vanity. God help.
We could knit him a blanket.
Yeah, we could. That's a good idea. Yeah, my girlfriend's actually knitting a blanket out of our cat's hair.
Wow,
That'd
be a very soft blanket.
I'm kind of grossed out.
It also will make half the people cough.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh,
a lot of people are allergic to cats.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, and I think
I'm not allergic to cats. I just don't like them.
I love animals, and I wasn't.
I'm a dog person. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't hate cats.
Yeah.
If a cat comes up to me, yes, I'll pat it. Oh, good cat, and then off you go.
Well, I used to be a dog person, but our cat said, "Oh no, actually, you're actually a cat person, and I can prove it." And so she did. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. All right. I guess I go both ways."
I admit that cats, they have my respect.
Yeah.
In the sense, they are predators.
Oh, yeah. And you can't trust them.
And the thing is, in order to form a relationship with a cat, which I reluctantly had to do in the past, one was left to me.
Oh, okay.
It's harder work than a dog, and you have to be essentially...
Well,
you have to be a much more sort of stand-up person
work.
to get the affection from that cat.
I think it's different work.
It is.
It's on the same... Like our cat, we don't let it out at night. Because when we got... I've always been in that...
Because it'll kill half the wildlife in the neighbourhood.
And in where I live in Rokeby, they have. But they're just... It's just different work, But the cats are also... Whilst they're also psychopathic murderers... they are also creatures of routine and habit. Like, normally we put our cat's dinner bowl here.
Sure.
As I was leaving for this, I gave it dinner and I put her dinner bowl there. She rocked up, looked at the dinner, sniffed it, looked in the corner.
What are they trying to do?
I'm like, it's right there.
Instantly suspicious.
or just stupid. I don't know. It's like, hang on, this doesn't make any sense.
Is it still food?
This is crazy. What? Have I got, it's upside down land? But no, I don't mind cats. And
I think also a lot of people, right or wrong, who knows, but they have a tendency to anthropomorphize cats.
Oh, yeah.
And
indeed. Or everything, though.
Right. Because it's not like, then it's not enough for them to say, my cat is a cat and it has some kind of personality.
Yeah.
It's like, no, my cat is a person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And why doesn't it understand why, you've done this thing I keep telling you not to do?
Like they're quite clearly sentient. But I don't really buy into the idea that they're sapient.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Sentient,
That's
not sapient.
Not sapient, indeed.
But they're quite intelligent for an animal, and quite probably in some ways they have intelligence superior to ours along the lines of their specialities.
Right, okay. You know, like quantified, yeah. So I would just go straight up that many cats are much smarter
you reckon
than people.
you can catch a bird? Go ham.
Yeah, right.
He can. It's not just because it's smaller and lighter.
Yeah.
It kind of knows how to approach it.
Yeah. Get in that angle and
they put like a squid, and the squid can like
right.
undo itself out of the jar and find its way around. And
the octopus that would turn the light off.
Right.
And
it's like it's very difficult. Once again, I don't think they're sapient.
But
they don't have the same kind of consciousness.
Are we not all
as
part
us.
of the same God consciousness that has merely separated itself to understand the limitations of itself?
Oh, look, I have no problem with that at all. No problem with that at all.
Yeah, right.
If we are just splinters of the same consciousness, fine.
Yeah,
fine.
Right. Okay.
But let's have a look at a rock. You know, it may still have a splinter of that consciousness. It may be a thing to be a rock. But is it thinking about, logic? Probably not. If it has any kind of thoughts at all, I don't think it has thoughts in that sense. Right. And then we go up through.
So what's your take on consciousness?
We've got single cells. We've got insects.
What's your take on consciousness? Is it local or is it?
It's a network. I mean, our brain doesn't have a center of consciousness.
Right.
Our brain is a network of neurons that respond to each other, and so when we talk about consciousness, as in this person, I am conscious. I am a network of essentially particles that can reflect on itself. This is not because there's something special about any part of me. Right. Rather that I have a billion trillion of them, and the human brain is a really remarkable organ.
But local.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Look, that's trickier to answer. Right. That's trickier to answer.
Right.
Because okay, look. Yeah. Here's another way to come out of it. So, not only do people can we see them?
Yeah.
We can smell them.
Right.
Right. So people have a scent. Dogs can smell a person from a very, very long way away. Okay. And that is still material, but it's not so local. It's quite distributed.
Oh, no, but it's still, it's not what I mean by local consciousness.
No, individual.
Are we merely transceivers? Is a consciousness beamed in from somewhere else?
Oh, I don't think it's beamed in.
When the machine turns off, do we, where do we go?
The machine turning off, I would characterize that as a heat death of the universe, right?
No, well, let's look.
That's turning the machine off.
Okay, well, I'm talking about what happens when your brain dies? Do you die with it? Is that the end of you?
As in me, as in this particular localized consciousness, yes.
Colin,
totally.
Yeah, really? Okay.
However, oh God, we'll stretch it for time here, but here's
Are you ready, folks? We're going down the rabbit hole. Here we go.
I've got something to throw at you.
All right.
Now, I'm not saying that this is what I believe, but here's an idea.
Okay.
Right. Now, let's say between 601 and 602, a person died. Okay, at some point between there, they died. Now, you're familiar with time dilation like in dreams. So, we can have a dream that goes on for a long time.
But you're only asleep for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's right, because we process a lot of information quickly or whatever.
Right.
Okay, now, are you familiar with Zeno's paradox?
No.
Okay, this is the idea that if, let's say, to get from point A to point B, in one period of time, you can travel half the distance. In the next period, you can travel half the distance. In the next period, you travel half the distance.
Okay.
So
there's
no matter
infinite-
how... Yeah, that's right. There's infinite number of steps between
Right.
A and B if you keep halving it.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Okay, so let's rumble all these things in together. Now, let's imagine for a moment that as you're dying, time starts to dilate. Let's just... Who knows? Let's just throw it out there, maybe.
Yeah.
And...
Well, how do you explain then? Like, I appreciate the concept that, there's your eternity.
That's... Yeah.
But how do you explain, like, the research of Leslie Keane and Ian Stevenson with people like Marty Martin, the case of Marty Martin, who...
For the audience, tell us more about this case.
Marty Martin was a young kid, not Marty Martin, that he was a young boy who had distinct, clear, and most of all, verifiable memories of another life that he lived. And they proved it, and they found out who that person was.
Why didn't they collect their $1 million from the Randy Corporation?
Because the Randy Corporation's a big old scam. I'm sorry to bust
Oh.
it. Yeah, it's a big old scam. Randy was an illusionist. He was a magician.
No, absolutely, yeah.
And he was an entertainer, and he knew what he was doing, And so you would think, so the counter argument is, well, I'll give $1 million to the first psychic, rah, rah. Well, if you're psychic and you know about Randy, would you go and collect that $1 million, or would you know what he's really like?
I would, no.
It's not rock solid. It's not sealed in. So there's always this ambiguity.
I think
the answer.
I think it's a little bit of an absurd objection.
Absolutely not. What are you talking about?
Well,
how's it absurd?
If
We're going to fight.
he's on record, I mean, rest in peace, the amazing Randy.
Yeah. Well, I got disillusioned with Randy, so I bought into him, and then I thought, well, hang on a minute, this guy's not telling the truth.
I've got a lot of faith in Randy.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to do this to you, Colin.
That's okay. I feel like this is a long and detailed conversation for another time.
Carl Sagan.
Of course.
Right. The CIA went to Carl Sagan and said, look, we need your advice because aliens are real. We'll tell you everything if you just shut the hell up. And Sagan went, knowledge. Okay.
That sounds like a story too.
We'll never know. But
No.
I reckon you want to have a look at those.
It's definitely fun to talk about and think about.
I love it. It's my favourite subject, the weird. I love it to death. And especially, it's not that I have a dollar in every, I'm not invested. I'm not placing a bet. Well, I'm placing a bet each way.
Yep.
But with Randy, I think that to the beginner, the things that Randy says are absolute conclusive proof. All this is nonsense. But to the scholar, it's like, hang on a minute. There's a deep problem with this. There's a deep problem with the skeptic side of things,
I don't know. Like, he's done some great work.
He's done great work with soft targets.
Okay. The targets that presented himself that want to claim the money.
Yeah, who are obviously charlatans, who are not psychics, because of the psychics.
But if someone really is psychic, then they could collect the money.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't. Well, what about Randy's work in Psychops? These guys were busted. They got busted faking results to prove their ends. These are the skeptic scientists. These are the great, science is our religion, clear thinking, it's, blah, 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 blah. Let's just fudge the data here. Psychops fell apart because of what Randy did.
Oh, see, that sounds suspicious too.
Everything's suspicious. Everything. Nothing's real.
But look, it's been great to have you on.
Colin, it's been a blast. Thank you so much. I wish we could do this again.
For sure. Maybe we will.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week with Oriol and Dave McNamara.
If you're watching this on the 5th, come on down to Rectango on the 14th of January, and the 21st of January, come and watch Jalen Sutcliffe singing with the Mentalists.
Dude, Jalen is the weapon.
He is. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Bye.